All right, so I'm here with Tom Corson-Knowles, and I discovered Tom Corson-Knowles a while back through his blogging, and I discovered his book, Kindle Publishing Bible. And this was actually a turning point for me when it came to going from kind of struggling on Kindle. After I discovered that book, that really made the breakthrough for me, put a lot of the pieces together. So it's actually through reaching out to Tom that, and sort of, I guess, kind of getting under his wing as him being one of my mentors, that really allowed me to achieve the breakthrough success that I have had on Kindle. So I really owe a lot to Tom. I'm very grateful for his knowledge and experience and that he was willing to help me out. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to introduce all of you to Tom, talk to him a little bit about his experience on Kindle, and maybe pick his brain for some of the tips and insights that he's learned in his vast experience of publishing on Kindle. So Tom, if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about how you got into publishing on Kindle, and maybe a little bit of your background even before that.
Yeah, sure, Derek. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I just love sharing this information. It's been so much fun for me. I actually started writing my first book when I was 19 years old. I was a freshman at business school at Indiana University. And all my classmates, we were in the honors program, so my classmates had to do a internship somewhere in a business. And so 90% of my classmates chose Wall Street. Most of them were doing investment banking internships, and a lot of them were working 100 hours a week. And I remember I got a call from a friend of mine. She was just in tears, talking about how much she worked, and she didn't have enough time to eat or exercise or sleep or have any social life whatsoever. And I was just like freaked out by that whole call and that whole vision of what my life would look like if I went that route. So I started looking for every way I could to make money on my own, start my own business, even while I was in school, because there was no way I was going into Wall Street or corporate America after that experience. So one of the things that I did to kind of motivate myself or inspire myself to be successful and not have to go into that route of corporate America that I didn't want to, was to write down kind of what I call my manifesto, and that eventually became the book now called Rich by 22. But it was basically everything I knew or thought I knew at the time about business, about how to make money, about how to be successful financially. And it was just for me. I never planned anyone to read it other than maybe my family and close friends. And it was really just for me to clarify my ideas and my thoughts and my goals for my future and what I wanted my life to look like. And so that served me really well. I learned more writing that book than I learned in my entire 4 years in business school, I can honestly say, in my classes there. And the problem was that I had no idea how to publish the book. A few years later, I realized, hey, this is actually really good information. I had polished it, and it was really nice information. And I thought, I'd like to publish this book, but I had no idea how. So it just sat on the shelf for 5 years. And then about a little over a year ago, a friend said, hey, Tom, why don't you just publish your book on Kindle? Just an offhand remark, and I thought, okay, I'll try it out. So I did some research online, found out how to publish my book on Kindle. I did it. And I checked back a few weeks later, and I had several sales on my dashboard, and I thought, wow, this is so cool. Like, I'm selling books, and I didn't do anything other than write it, which I had already, written the book anyways. So it was basically no work to start making extra money and also get my message out there because, like I said, when I started writing my first book, it was really for me to clarify, a message for myself. But then I realized, the message in there for myself also could have an impact on the world. And so that's really what inspired me to start, getting active in Kindle publishing. Was, the money was great, but I also really wanted to get my message out there and share the information that I learned with other people to help make a difference in their lives. So that's how I got started.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that reminds me a bit of my own story, because I had information. I was kind of inspired to get my message out there. I didn't first think I had the information, but through reading books and things like that, I realized that the insights that I've learned, in my case, it's, health and fitness and a lot of different areas, that can be really valuable to other people. But I didn't know how I would get my message out there. And there's a lot of different avenues a person could take, but one of the things that attracted me to Kindle was that it's just so easy to get a book published on Kindle and start getting readers, start getting fans, and making a difference. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing. I think that's what attracted me most to Kindle, and it sounds like you can relate to that experience where you have the book already written, but it's not like, I think one of the things that could hold people back is they think, well, I got to go get a publisher, and I got to jump through all these hoops to get a book out there, and whether it's to grow their brand or whether it's to make money or anything like that. But with Kindle, it's so easy to just publish it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So what was it like for you in the early days of Kindle? So that was your first book. I know at this point now you've published quite a handful of books on Kindle. I mean, did you have decent success early on, or were there a lot of things that you had to learn before you really start getting the hang of the Kindle system?
I mean, I had like 7 sales in the first 15 days or so, and to me that was success. Like I was like, this is awesome. That was huge success for me because it was so easy. It was I just published it and it took like 20 minutes to publish it after I did all the research, and then I was making these sales. So for me that was success right off the bat. I think a lot of people, I think success is $100,000 a year or 10,000 a month or whatever their goals are. There's nothing wrong with having goals. Goals are wonderful. But to me, I was already successful as soon as I logged into my account and saw, hey, I've got sales for my book that I wrote 6 years ago, and I put a lot of effort and time in. So success for me was instant. That's what I would say. Financial success, how soon was I earning significant money to make a difference in my lifestyle? That took a little bit longer. It took about 10 months before I was earning about $10,000 a month for my own personal books that I had written. So even that is really fast. For a lot of authors, never even dream of making $10,000 a month. And for me, it happened really quickly, and I'm grateful for that. But the first days, like after I published my first book, what did I do? How did I go from 7 sales to over 5,000 sales in a month? Well, I started publishing more books. I started writing more books. I got inspired. When I saw that I could have my book out there and reach people's lives and make a difference in people's lives, and I had reviews from my readers who said, hey, this information changed my life, like that inspired me. So I started getting up every single day. I would write 2, 3, 4 hours a day. Every single day I would get up early in the morning and write. If I was up late at night and had an idea, I'd go and write. And I just got inspired by that, and I just kept going and learning and studying more. But the main thing is I kept writing. I see so many authors, what they do is they'll write one book and they'll say, this is the best book in the world. And maybe it's their first book or their 5th book, doesn't matter. But they fall in love with that book and they stop doing the things that made that book come to place in the first place, which is writing. If you're a writer, you should be writing. There's one thing if you're a marketer, if you just want to make money online, this is just another way to do that, that's fine. But like if you're a serious writer and that's your career, like you need to keep writing because that's obviously what you love to do, is what you're inspired to do, so go do that, keep doing that. So that was one of the things. I didn't stop writing, I kept writing all the time. The other thing is I started studying marketing because there's 2 sides to the business of becoming a successful Kindle publisher or any kind of author. Is you have to have the writing the books, creating the books in the first place, but you also have to do the marketing and the business side. And most authors fail at that. And I know your course is teaching people a ton of great information about that. But you have to be able to either understand the marketing and apply those strategies so you can sell a lot of books, or you have to have a partner who can do that for you, whether it's your publisher or a marketing consultant or whatever. So that's really the 2 key sides of the business, and that's where I focused. I focused on, every day I spent a couple hours writing, and every day I spent a couple hours learning as much as I could about marketing and promoting my own books. And that's, really the formula for success in any field. I mean, one thing, you got to create a great product. The second thing is you got to market that product, and you got to constantly be learning from your mistakes and constantly be learning from other experts in the field and apply those new lessons that you learn every day to your business, and that's how you grow incrementally. Success doesn't happen overnight. 10 months might sound like overnight to you, but it's not. That's like 10 months of hard work, working my butt off every single day. That was a lot of work to do that. And, it doesn't mean you can't do it. Anyone can do that if they want to put the work in. And it's a lot easier now because you have people like me and you who are sharing all the strategies. Like, there was no one back then who was teaching me these things. I had to learn everything on my own. I mean, I spent $1,000 on courses and video trainings and things like that. And I might get 1 or 2 good ideas here and there, but nothing was like the system perfectly put into place to make money. And I know, like, when you read my book and you used that launch strategy and you sold, like, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 books in a week, it was like, you were #1 in weight loss, right? Like, that was amazing. It's because you had the strategy laid out for you, and you just did it. That's the thing, once you have the strategy laid out and you apply it, that's what it takes to be successful. But, for me, I had to struggle more, I had to learn more. But, if people just follow your system for marketing, Derek, they're going to sell a lot of books, But then the other thing is you got to keep writing books, because not every book is going to make, 2,000, 3,000 sales and #1 in weight loss. That's not going to happen for every book. So you have to have multiple products, you have to have multiple books out there, because, one book might be a runaway bestseller and one next book might be a total flop, and you don't know which one's going to be which ahead of time. There's no way you really can predict that unless you have a massive marketing wedge ahead of time to really propel it to be #1 no matter what. But, if you're starting out from scratch, just start from the beginning and just keep writing and start marketing your books and go from there. Don't look a year from now, 5 years from now down the road. Like, what can you do today to write your book or market your book? What can you do tomorrow to write your book and market your book, and just focus on that and do that?
Yeah, that's tons of great stuff there, and I'm totally in agreement with everything you said. That's been my experience. One of the things, going back to the beginning, that you mentioned was that for you, you said that when you were just making those few sales initially, that was a success. And I can really resonate with that, because people get this idea that, oh, I'm only going to be successful when I'm making like thousands of dollars or whatever. But sometimes the biggest successes are just the internal ones that we go, wow, I can actually do this. Or that's so easy, you know, how can I make this even better? Like, it's not a difficult process to publish a book on Kindle. Mm-hmm. So to just do it and see that initial bit of success, whether it's 1 sale or 100 sales or 1,000 sales, that's just the confidence building. And like you said, it's not going to be necessarily the first book, or it's not necessarily a book that you can predict, like whether it's going to be successful ahead of time or not. Mm-hmm. You know, the book for me, it happened to be the 3rd book that I put on Kindle. And I would say to anyone, you know, just like you said, you know, you keep writing, you keep taking action and moving forward, and you learn from every experience. And I particularly love this about Kindle, because it's not like you have to invest a lot of money and get books printed up or whatever, and then you decide you want to change the title or something like that. You can always go back and make changes. You can learn from things and continue to refine the process. And there's really no better teacher than one's own personal experience of going through it. You can go through all the courses, my course, you can go through your book and everything like that, and that's going to help give a person a blueprint or a guideline, but ultimately, you know, those things are all just tools. It's up to each person to really get their own experience, figure out their own strategies, figure out their own innovations on things, and then that's how they're going to have a lot of success. Mm-hmm. And also, one of the things that you do by writing multiple books, you know, for me, I don't necessarily want to have like 100 books on Kindle necessarily, but there is something very valuable in having a handful of books, because each book can be used to help promote the other books. And I noticed that's a strategy that you utilize a lot, is that you have books in a series, and you have multiple books. You want to talk a little bit about how having several books on Kindle has helped you and your overall marketing?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's really a no-brainer. I mean, if you've got one book and it's a great book, let's talk about nonfiction. That's kind of what we're talking about right here. Let's say it's on, you know, marketing or Kindle or whatever, and so your book helps someone. Let's say it helps someone make an extra $100. So they spend $2.99 on your book, and it helps them make $100 in a week, and they're like thrilled, right? They're like your raving fan customer now, because their return on investment was huge, right? And they know that if they keep applying those strategies, they're going to make even more and more money. So they read your book, they get this information, they love it. What are they going to do? They're going to go and check out and say, hey, does this guy have any more information that I could learn from? And so the first thing they're going to do, since they bought your book on Kindle in the first place, they're going to go look on Kindle again to see if you have any other books. And the problem is, with a lot of authors, they only got one book. So people go to look for other books and they got nothing else to buy, and they say, well, that sucks. I mean, I'd like to learn more from this guy, but I don't know. He doesn't have anything more, so I'm going to go look, and they're going to buy from your competitors. But if you write one great book and people love it, and they go look on Amazon, they see, hey, you've got 3, 4, 5, 6 more books on a similar topic, I'm going to buy all those books right now. I'm not even going to question it. Just one click, buy them all, and I'm going to go read all those books. And so you turn one customer who's, you know, $2 in royalties to you to $10 or $15 or more, and then I'm guaranteeing you, once they read the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th book, if they're all that great, you know, they're going to share it on Facebook, they're going to tweet about it, they're going to write reviews for your books. You know, it's really no-brainer. It's all about creating great, massive value for your customers. And so, you know, if you think you can provide everything your customer ever needs to know about your subject of expertise in one book, that's fine. Just do one book, you know, and market the hell out of it. But, you know, if it's a big field, like Kindle publishing is a big field. Like, I could put everything in one book, it'd be like 700 pages. I decided to break it down to 6 books, and, you know, it's easier for people to digest. It's, you know, some people just need formatting. I've got the book on formatting. Some people just need marketing. I've got the book just on marketing. Some people just need writing help. I've got the book just on writing help. And I really recommend you segment your expertise into those different areas, because if I have a 700-word book on Kindle publishing, you know, no one's going to buy it. No one's going to read it. You know, they're gonna halfway through, and, like, you know, half this information doesn't apply to them, so they're going to get bored. But if someone knows, like, hey, I need help writing my book, then my book on writing is going to help them write their book, and they're going to buy it. And every bit of information in that book is going to be helpful for that person. Whereas if they bought the 700 pages, they'd have to skim through 600 pages to find 100 pages that actually help them. Does that make sense? So that's why you want to really segment your books that way. And then at the end of the day, you're making more money because you're selling more books and you're creating, raving fan customers who are reviewing, many of your books and sharing them on social media and things like that. So, I highly recommend, if you really are an expert in your field, then write several books in your field. Don't just repeat the same information over and over. Make sure it's new, make sure it's unique. But, if you've got more information to share, then write it, and your books are going to market each other, because at the end of your book, your customer's going to go. And what I do at the end of my books, I have a section called Other Books by Tom Corson-Knowles, and I just list all the other books I've written, especially the ones at the top of the list are the ones most highly related to that book. And a lot of those customers click through and they buy my other books. So that's what I recommend doing.
Great. And what I hear from that, if I can kind of summarize it in terms of what I've noticed, is that being able to sort of niche something down and create a smaller focus with each book, as opposed to having one book that tries to be everything to everyone. I think the books that, for my book, I have a book that's just like general fitness tips for a lot of people. Now, the advantage of that is I can sell it and it's got a wide mass market appeal. But sometimes one of the things I notice, if it's like a negative review coming in or something like that, because it's kind of trying to go for mass appeal, it's not quite what certain people wanted or expected. Whereas if I can take that and focus on just addressing each individual person's needs, like you said, you do that, like maybe a person just needs to learn about Kindle formatting and health and fitness. Maybe it's a person just needs to learn about, certain exercise tips for weight loss, and I can make it very specific to them. They're going to appreciate it more, and they're still willing to pay just as much money for that one book. So instead of having like a 200-page, big book that tries to cover everything, I just split that into a bunch of individual books, really make it targeted. People appreciate the information, and the thing about that is, on the surface level, even though any one particular book might not make as many sales, when it all comes together, it becomes greater than the sum of the parts, and a person can actually make more overall sales by having, some smaller books on more targeted topics than trying to do like the one book that, does everything.
Exactly, and it's not even just about the money. I mean, when you're talking about $2.99, that's like chump change. I mean, no one really cries over $2.99 when they buy a book, But what you're really doing when you're niching down your books like that is you're saving your customers time, because they don't have to waste time clicking through all this information that doesn't apply to them. They can go, hey, this book's only about this one little subject, and I know every ounce of information is going to be helpful for them. And if you write that way, if you write really clearly, like I write really succinct books. I don't just use tons of stories and all kinds of extraneous information to ramble on like a lot of authors seem to do these days. I'm not saying I'm better than other people, but like I just can't stand to read a book that's 400 pages if it could be just as well done in 200 pages. Like I'm just straight to the point. That's my personality. That's my voice as an author. And I think if you can save your readers time, then anything you can do to do that, they're going to like you more.
That makes sense, and that's kind of one of the things that I think, for me personally going forward, that would be something I would focus more on. And one of the things that attracted me to Kindle was not getting bogged down in this idea that I have to, like, oh, I got another book to write. It's going to be this big laborious process. It's not just like writing a short article either, but it doesn't have to be like this overwhelming thing to get a book on Kindle. I mean, a person can realistically provide a really good content book that only takes them, a few days to put the information together. Mm-hmm. And people, they don't mind, I found, a 100-page book that has valuable content or something. I even see books that are 60 pages or thereabouts. If it's the right content, people are okay with it because you can price the Kindle books, at any sort of price point to match the length of the book. Mm-hmm. So smaller, more targeted books are a great strategy. And then like what you do is, and I see other people do this, then they might combine related books together and then have another book that's like, you want everything, well now you can get the big package and it's a little cheaper to do it like that.
Right, exactly.
So do you have any particular insights in terms of, you go over a lot of this in your book, and it's a book I definitely recommend, Kindle Publishing Bible, but do you have any particular things? Let's start out with this. Maybe the top biggest mistakes you see people making when it comes to what's going to cost them in terms of their sales, whether it's their marketing. I know like bad covers can be one thing, but just anything like that you've noticed people making.
Definitely. I think the cover is a huge one. It's the cover and the title. It's hard to say which one's more important, but they're both right up there at the number one spot, I think. A lot of people have covers that just, first of all, you have to realize that when people are looking at a cover, they're either looking at a Kindle device, which is like 60 by 90 pixels, or on the Amazon bestsellers list, which may be even a little bit bigger than that. So it's a very small version of your cover image. And that means if your title is not big and bold on your cover, people won't be able to read it. And if they can't read the words on your cover, all they see is the image. And if the image is ugly or doesn't communicate what your book does, then they're not going to click on it. It's just like common sense. Like if you look at every website, go to like Huffington Post or whatever, any kind of website, and look at all the ads on that site. What do you see? The same thing you see on TV. You see sexy women, you see flashy graphics, you see things that catch people's eyes. So that's what you want your cover to do, is to catch the reader's eye. But you also want there to be text. You look at all those banner ads, they all have text on them in big, bold, easily readable text. So you want your cover to stand right out. So if the cover of your book is called, Kindle Publishing Bible, it should be easy to read, even at 60 by 90 pixels, a very small, even the very small thumbnail of it should be very easy to read. So you want your title to be big. If you have a graphic designer, tell them, look, make the title as big as you possibly can without it without it still being readable, right? Take it all the way to the edge. So that's one thing you want with the cover. The other thing is you want the images to just look good. You want it to look professional. You want it to look clean. One of the mistakes I made early on is I actually wrote by Tom Corson-Knowles on my cover, and I realized that's like a total unprofessional thing to do, because if you look at any freshly published book, it never says by the author's name. It just says the author's name right there. So first of all, you get the cover done. The second thing is the title. So the title is very important because it's what people tell their friends. The number one source for book sales is word of mouth. I don't care if you're on Kindle, what platform you're on. The number one source is word of mouth. And if you don't have word of mouth sales, you can still sell some books, but you're not going to sell nearly as many as you would if you have good word of mouth. So what are your friends going to tell their friends when they read your book? They're going to say, hey, I read this book. It's called How to Sell Things and Make a Lot of Money and Do All This Stuff on Kindle Really Fast. Then no one's going to remember that title. It's like so long and ridiculous, right? So you want a short, simple title. I don't recommend more than 4 or 5 words at most. And I think some of the best titles are either 1 or 2 words, like Blink or Outliers. Malcolm Gladwell's got some good titles. I like his stuff. Just simple titles that people can remember so they can tell their friends. You want to think about that right off the bat. How are people going to tell their friend about your book? It's got to be the title, and it's got to be something easy to remember. The other thing about your title and your subtitle especially is that you want keywords in there, because nowadays all your traffic, or most of your traffic, is going to come online through search, whether it's Amazon search or Google search. You're going to get a lot of search traffic, so you want keywords in there. So if your book is about weight loss, weight loss should be a keyword in there possibly, or lose weight, or get fit, or get healthy. Get these keywords in your title or subtitle if you can. You're going to get a lot of traffic that way. But that's the 2 biggest mistakes I see people make, is having a cover you can't read the title, it looks ugly, and having a title that you can't remember and doesn't really communicate what the book does. If your book is about losing weight and you have some kind of analogy or metaphor that's the title of your book, that like something about elephants or something. I see people do this all the time. They think they have this poetic idea for a title, some kind of metaphor or thing like that, or analogy, and it makes sense once you read the book, but before you read the book it makes no sense at all. And that means you're not going to sell many books, because it has to make sense to the reader right away before they read the book. If you've got puns and things like that, keep them inside the book. Don't keep them on the title, because the title has to sell your book, and so does the cover. So those are the 2 biggest mistakes I see people make.
Yeah, and that echoes my sentiments, because I'll be browsing on Amazon, and I can pretty quickly, and I'm sure you can too, if I were to just browse through a bunch of books, I can tell the ones that seem like they're going to be selling well and the ones that aren't. And then, of course, you can click through and see the sales rank. And more often than not, I'm pretty accurate in being able to guess whether a book would be a good selling book. And all that's judged on is the title and the cover of the book. And that's really what the people browsing Amazon, the potential customers, that's their thinking. They're not necessarily consciously going, well, what's the size of the font, or how does this... It's all subconscious, but it's like, is it professional, is it not professional? Is it captivating my attention, is it not? Do I know what this book is about, or does this book seem relevant to me, or is it not relevant to me? And so you've got to, like, as authors, sometimes we get so caught up in our own work, we know what we're trying to do, but we have to put ourselves in the position of the average person that doesn't know anything about your book, Are they going to just see that thumbnail image and the title and go, that's something I want to check out?
Exactly. Yeah, it's so true that, like you said, when you're browsing through the page, all you see is the title and the cover, and really those two things can sell more books than what's inside your book. And a good case in point is I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that there was a book out there that's called something like What Men Know About Women, and then you buy the book. It's a big paperback book. It's like 200 pages. You open it up, and the first page just says nothing, and everything else is blank. And that's kind of how it is with books these days, because no one sees inside the book until after they bought it. I mean, there's the look inside. You can see the first 10% of your book, but people are not buying the book what's in it. They're buying based on the cover and the title, and if those are good, you're going to sell books. And obviously, you want the information inside to deliver. You want to write awesome books. You want to write really helpful books that can help your reader. I'm not saying skimp on quality, but what I'm saying is once you've got the quality there, you've got a great product. Market it properly. Have the great cover, have the great title. Spend time thinking about it. People always ask me, Tom, what do you think about this title? And they want me to give them instant feedback and come up with this instant idea for a great title for them. And I don't know about you, but that's not the way my brain works. It takes me oftentimes a week or two to come up with a really good title that I'm happy with, because it takes time to just think about it. And it's like when you're getting a massage or relaxing, you come up with this idea like, oh, that's a great idea, I'm going to write that down. So spend time thinking about your title and spend time with a good cover designer. And if it's not good, ask your friends who are marketers, ask friends like you, Derek, who understand this and get feedback on your title and your cover, because those really are the most important things when you're marketing your book.
Yeah, that's great insights, because like you said, there's two components. There's the content, which that's very important, but that's actually more of a long-term thing. Obviously, if the content's not good, people aren't going to keep buying your books. You'll get bad reviews, stuff like that. So getting quality content is very important. But where people sometimes mess up is they don't focus on the marketing. They don't understand that people don't know what's in the book. They only know kind of what's on the surface level. And so that's what's going to basically be the initial thing to sell the book. And speaking of that, real quickly, as we're starting to wrap up, do you have any particular tips or insights in terms of, once a person gets a book, they publish it? I'm big on the KDP free promotions. I think that's just like the greatest thing in the world that Amazon has that. So do you have any tips or insights, maybe like a top thing you would recommend to someone doing whenever they launch their book and they want to get the word out about it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I mean, I've got all the systems in place in my book, and people can just read that and take all those things into account and just do all that information. But there's so much to it, really. I mean, it's like, is there one thing you need to do to promote your book? But I think the one thing you need to do is be serious about it. Treat it like a business, Like, I hear people all the time, they ask me, what's the one thing I can do to sell more books, Tom? And it's like, there is no one thing. There is no magic secret, magic sauce, one thing you do that sells 1,000 books. It's a lot of things. It's social media. It's telling your friends and your family. A lot of authors, they squirm and say, tell my friends and family. There's no way. But if you're serious about this, if this is a business, imagine if someone started a restaurant. Would they not tell their friends and family to come over and try the food? Of course you would. It's the same thing. If you're serious about this, if this is a real business for you, if this is a real career for you, you're going to tell everyone you know, hey, I'm so excited I just launched this new book. And you have to have that attitude, because if you're afraid to tell your own friends and family about your book, then how are you going to market it properly to the world? How are you going to go on radio and promote your book? How are you going to go on blog tours and promote your book? How are you going to write blog posts promoting your book if you won't even tell your mom that you wrote the book? You know what I mean? You have to have just that mindset that you're going to do whatever it takes to get the word out there. You're not past telling the lady on the corner at the grocery store or whatever. I'm not saying that's the best way to sell books, but it's that mindset, that mentality that you're going to do whatever it takes to market your book that's going to get the word out there. And when you're on fire, when you're inspired about your book, when it helps people, then when you put the strategy into place about creating a Facebook fan page and doing Facebook ads or doing Twitter or writing guest posts or blogging, all these things that you can do to promote your book, then once you have that passion, inspiration, people are going to feel that. Whether it's a 100-character tweet or whether it's a 10,000-word blog post that waxes on about your book, people will feel your inspiration and they will be moved by your marketing because it's just someone who's inspired by it. But like I said, there's no one thing you can do, but I think that's a big ingredient to your success when you're marketing, is that you really have a great product, like we said, and you're excited about it, you're inspired by it. Because if you're not inspired by it, no one's going to be inspired by your marketing.
Yeah, and that's so true. And when I launched my book, I had that feeling like I was so excited. I tell my mom about it. I tell my sister, my cousin, share this on Facebook. I'm telling all these people, and is all that, is any one of those things, okay, if I tell my sister and she tells some friends, maybe that's only going to be a couple extra downloads. But it's a long-term thing as well as a short-term. So it's not just the short-term, what's going to drive like thousands of hits to my page. It's also, how can I reach the people that are actually interested in this book, that they'll feel my passion, they're going to be interested, and they're going to leave a review on the book because it helped them so much. And so there's a lot of components to it, and kind of reminds me of health and fitness. People come to me and say, well, what's just like the most important thing, diet or exercise? It's like, well, I could try to prioritize one or the other, or say, with your diet, this one thing's more important than that. But really, it's like, if you're serious about taking care of your body, you're going to do everything.
Exactly.
It's a whole system. So it's not about necessarily getting bogged down and thinking like, oh, there's so much stuff to do. There are priorities in terms of what's going to have the biggest bang for the buck. But there's also this attitude that it is a business. It is legitimate. I am willing to, pursue other avenues. And just because something works well for me, whether it's, a Facebook fan page promotion or some sort of paid ad, another person in another genre, they might find that their big breakthrough comes from doing some guest posts on relevant blogs, and that's how they get their tribe or their following that helps them. So it's being willing to be open to these different ideas and kind of explore the different possibilities, and then I think people will kind of innovate and come up with maybe some new and clever ways to promote Kindle books that maybe none of us have heard of.
Exactly. Well, I think at the end of the day, the biggest marketer for your book isn't you, it's your readers. If you have readers who love your book, they're going to tell their friends, and they're going to do things that you could never do. They're going to, I've had readers introduce me for radio interviews and podcast shows and guest blogging and all kinds of stuff just because a reader loved my book and emailed me and say, hey, you've got to talk to this person, he'll help you promote your book. I never imagined that or expected that ahead of time, but if you just connect with, I'd rather have like 100 loyal readers who love my book than 10,000 people who are not so excited about it, because those 100 people are going to tell their friends, they're going to share it on social media, they're going to give me opportunities to spread the word. And so if you really just focus on creating a great book like we talked about that really helps readers, and then just connecting with a few readers who love your book, they'll do more for you than any amount of paid ads or advertising or anything like that, I think.
Yeah, very true. Well, Tom, I appreciate all your time. You've shared a lot of great tips and insights, and I think this is going to be really valuable. As we wrap up, is there anything you want to let people know about where they can find out more information about you or what you have going on?
Yeah, totally. I've got a great free training program. It's called ebookpublishingschool.com, and it basically teaches you the basics of Kindle publishing. Everything from formatting to publishing your book on Kindle, and even some cool marketing strategies with KDP Select. And then I've got 6 books on Kindle as well about Kindle marketing and publishing, so you can check that out at amazon.com/author/business. But the main thing is really just be able to reach out there, be willing to reach out to people like me and Derek. You maybe see us in this video and you think we're big shots or whatever, but we're not. We're just normal, average Joes, just regular people. And we love to help new authors who are excited, who are passionate, who are really willing to go out there. And don't be isolated in your apartment at your computer. Reach out there to other authors and connect with people. If you've got questions, there are people who have answers. So don't be stuck on the same problems over and over again. I think these days there's really no excuse to be stuck on the same problem. Just go out there, connect with people, and apply the lessons that you learn. You'll be really, really successful with Kindle.
Awesome. That's so great, Tom. And I appreciate you taking your time. And once again, you can check out Tom's books, and I highly, highly recommend you check out the Kindle Publishing Bible. That was a breakthrough book for me, and you can find out more about that by just checking out Amazon and checking out the name Tom Corson-Knowles, and you'll see a big list of a lot of the books he's published. He's a great resource if you want to model what the right thing to do is when it comes to Kindle publishing.
Well, thanks, Derek. I really appreciate it.